If there's a question that you got wrong and you're trying to fix it, if you have space, I would say either write it on the back or get scrap paper and write it off to the side. That way you have it. You could always go back and watch the class recording to have this as well. For number 1, the only thing you needed to do for number 1 is divide negative 67 on both sides. The negative 67 would have become 1, and this would give you negative 14. So if you forgot the negative sign, I also saw some like adding and subtracting. It may have not been this class, it may have been my other. But the only thing you needed to do here was divide.
So if it's just two numbers, you just divide?
If there's numbers next to one another, they're already multiplying. And to undo that, we would divide this. For number 2, we're trying to get m by itself, so we need to get rid of 8. So we would subtract 8 to the other side. If you were putting this in your calculator, some of you may have did negative 37 plus 8, or forgot the negative for the 37 and just did minus 8, which is how you ended up with 29 if you got that. But this should have been negative 45. For number 3, there were a couple different ways you could go about doing that. One is to start off by subtracting the 3 to the other side and then combine your like terms. The other would be to combine your like terms and then subtract your 3. Either or. But when you combine your like terms and they're on the same side, you're not doing the inverse. You're doing whatever it says. So if it says negative 5 minus 4, that's exactly what you're doing. Negative 5 minus 4 to get negative 9b. If you added 4b or added 5b to get 1 or negative 1, and that's where that issue was, because you weren't doing exactly what it says. Then we could have subtracted 3 over to get negative 18. And then divided by negative 9. If you got negative 2, you may have forgot the negative somewhere in there, but it should have been a positive 2. Yeah, and that's it. If they were on opposite sides, you would be adding or subtracting to move it. Other questions on that one before we continue? Number 4, same thing. You have like terms on the same side, so we shouldn't be doing inverse operations. Another issue I saw is that we were trying to move variable terms to the side with constant terms and then combine them, and that doesn't work because they're not like terms. So I would just add 4n and 4n together to get 8n, and then divide. Number 5, you needed to distribute that 2 to everything inside the parentheses to get 14x minus 12 and bring everything else down. then you needed to move your constant terms to one side and your variable terms to the other. Didn't matter which side. Some of you did that at the same time. Some of you did that one step at a time. Either way, that was fine as long as you did that math correctly. So if I subtracted 4x to this side, I'd end up with 10x minus 12 equals 38. Then I would need to move 12 back to the other side. To get 10x equals 50. And then divide both sides by 10. To get x equals 10. Do we have any questions on that one? The last one is where I saw a lot of different issues. Most of them were similar to issues you had before. So if you were doing the inverse here, you probably did it here, which threw you off. These are on the same side, so we can combine those. Another issue I saw is when we were multiplying or distributing, our signs were messing up. So always double check those. 6 times negative 10 would give us negative 60k. 6 times 8 would give us a positive 48. Negative 7 times 5 would give us a negative 35k. And negative 7 times negative 9 would give us a positive 63. So as I was looking at those, some of you forgot the variable and then ended up combining terms that weren't like terms to begin with. Or your signs were different, so you ended up with different numbers. So be very careful that you're bringing down your signs, that you're bringing down your variables, and that you're putting in the correct signs. From there, we have like terms we can combine on the same side. Again, just doing whatever it says, not the inverse. So negative 60 minus 35 would give us negative 95k. 48 plus 63 should have been 111. I have k's on both sides, so I need to move my k's over.
Oh, I do that.
So I could add 95 to both sides. 95k, sorry. This would give me 111k. And then I would need to divide both sides by 111. To get k equals 1. So with problems that have more, take it slow, go step by step, make sure you're getting all your signs, all your variables, bringing everything down, simplifying and combining what you need to. That way you don't mess up later. Do you have any questions on that one? For the most part, we did generally well in 1.1. 1.2, not so much. But we're going to go through it. One, I'm going to say some of you made these 10 times more complicated than they really were by moving things, adding things, combining things. I don't really know how to fix that for you except to say try not to overthink these. Solve this as if you would a normal equation. So for number 7, we were trying to get a by itself. We need to get rid of the -2 and the -4. The easiest way to do this would be to first add 4 to the other side. Are 4 and z like terms? Can I combine 4 and z? No. So that would just be z plus 4 minus 2a. Just moving it to the other side, and now it's there, kind of in the way, but I can't do anything with it. Then divide both sides by -2. Now, there were variations of this answer that were acceptable. This one, I accepted. Usually, when we get equations like this, we don't like in math in general, the negative to be in the denominator. So like the actual answer key for this didn't have the negative in the denominator. It took everything and multiplied it by that negative. So it changed it to -z minus 4 over 2. That would have also been an acceptable answer. If you had tried to simplify it, like actually divide the 2, that would have worked if you remember to separate it. So I'm going to go back to the original. Z over -2 plus 4 over -2. If you separated it, then you could simplify the 4 and the -2. So this would just become -z over 2 minus 2. That would have been an acceptable answer. Many of you did the first one, and that was fine. But if you did either of those 3, that would have also been fine. Say that entire thing one. So the notes and the building notes have been on Canvas. The practice has been on Canvas. There's Delta Math, there's Khan Academy, there's me, Mr. Rothorn, so many things. Eight is very similar to 7. There's different variables. So instead of adding 4 like I did over here, I'm moving to 3, but I'm subtracting. And then dividing by -2. Just like number 7, there are different answers that would have been acceptable. That one was fine. Switching the signs would have been fine. In this case, there's nothing to simplify, so separating it wouldn't have really helped too much. We are going to stop there and finish the others when we come back from lunch. On that side of the whole. Okay. Before we continue, does anyone have questions on 7 or 8? For number 9, we needed to solve for x, which means we needed to get rid of c. C is being added to x, so to get rid of it, subtract it to the other side.
That was all you
Usually in math, we have our variables in alphabetic order, so if you rearrange them, that was also an acceptable answer. But either or. Okay. For number 10, we also needed to solve for x, but this x was negative. So you could have went about this one of two ways. Got rid of c and then got rid of the negative, or move move x to the other side, so x was positive, but then you would have to move b and r back. Either or would work though. First way, if you move c over, you'd be left with negative x equals b plus r minus c. That's really negative 1x, so you would need to divide each of these by negative 1 and simplify, which would really just change the signs of all of these. So this would become positive x, this would become negative b, negative r, and positive c. And then again, you could have rearranged them so that it's in alphabetic order. Minus b, minus if you did this one the other way I was just mentioning, and moves x to the right, you would then need to subtract b and subtract r. I'm going to do that at the same time. Notice that you would get the same thing. Questions on that one? For 11, you needed to get a by itself. Well, the only thing by a is c. C and a are multiplying, so to get rid of a, divide both sides by c. And that would have gave you your correct answer. For the last one, it's very similar to 9 and 10. You're solving for a. So get rid of m by adding it to the other side. If you wanted to put it in alphabetic order, you could do that as well. Either answer would have been. So again, try not to make this harder. Like this is already difficult. Try not to make it harder on yourself. Try to just solve it as if it were like a normal equation, but you're not combining like terms or moving things and like actually adding things together type thing. When we take the test, it'll be very similar to the quiz, just different question or different numbers, variables, things like that. practice them and ask questions in class today. Do we have any questions on those last two? So for the remainder of class today, what you guys are going to be working on is, one, if you still have the study guide I gave you after you finish your quiz, work through that. Most of these will be harder examples than what will be on the test, but if you could do this, then you could do this test myself. Work through that, ask questions, get help. You also have, you're done with math, you can go back and do the additional practice at all of the ends of the notes that you can go back and do. Your Khan Academy that if you didn't do, last week that you need to do, plus the one for literal equations that's due tomorrow. So really what I'm saying is I don't really care what you're working on as long as you're working on something. Right, so you have this time to work. I'm going to say this, but I'll repeat it at the end of class. So next time I see you, which is Monday, you guys will be taking your test. So there's something on the quiz or something in a practice that you're not understanding, ask in class. Come see me before school tomorrow, after school today or tomorrow, before school Monday. Whenever. Email me over the weekend. That way you don't go into the test with whatever questions you have. Okay? Yes. If you don't have this time to work, we'll be walking around. Make sure you ask questions if you have them.